Once again, my name is Sonia Schreier-Norris. I'm the project manager for Ploud at the Library of Michigan, a subsidized website template and hosting solution that is funded in part by the Institute of Museum and Library Services. I'd like to welcome you today to part one of 4 one-hour workshops. And the first thing we're going to talk about is adding and deleting users. So there is what's called a user tools icon. It may be your name depending on what your theme is, but it's always going to have these options underneath it. First thing you may need to do is add additional users to your site, and that you do under Site Setup. This is a page that I would recommend that you ignore completely, except for users and groups. These are some pretty sophisticated changes that you can make, and the more sophisticated the changes, the more sophisticated the errors. So if you are in real good with Kim and you want to go exploring, I would be asking him for his assistance before you make any of these changes. So we're going to open users and groups. This is something that's completely safe to do no matter who you are. And we can see that in Dickinson, we've got Megan Buck as a site administrator and Nikki Yonk as a site administrator. Is there anyone else you need to add? At Dickinson, or are you all good? Let's go ahead on over to our master template, and I'm going to add a fictional person. So I'm going to go to Site Setup and Users and Groups. And this is quite simple. I simply click on Add New User. Full name is going to be Becky Wartella. She is our events coordinator here at the Library of Michigan, and she is assisting on this training period. So her username is going to be Becky W. Email address is wartellar@michigan.gov. And this password is actually inconsequential. She is going to establish her own password. She'll never know what password I put in here as a temporary. She will simply be provided with a email giving her her username and asking her to select her own. You want to make sure to keep the send a confirmation mail with a link checked. And then the only one of these groups that matters in any sense is the site administrators. Go ahead and assign everyone to the site administrators group as you add additional users. You click on register. And now Becky's going to receive an email that she needs to respond to within 72 hours in order to establish her password. If she misses that 72 hours, anyone else with website access can log in and come to reset password and apply changes. And it will simply resend her the email to get started. Okay. So are there any questions about adding or actually, and let's take a look at deleting users as well. It is just standard safety best practices that when someone leaves your library, you remove their access to the website. Doesn't matter how friendly they were, doesn't matter what a great employee they were, people who do not have responsibility for your website shouldn't maintain access to it. So I would encourage you at least every 6 months to a year to go in and check and just make sure that this list accurately reflects who should have access to your website. Alrighty, so let's go ahead and look at site configurations. Once again, that's under your personal tools menu, and we're going to spend a lot of time in personal tools. You're going to get real familiar with coming to this dropdown. So we're going to go to site configurations. And this is where you control things like the title of the site, where that site title is visible. So in the In a current MEL project, we're creating a fictional library, the Rosa Parks Public Library. So let's go ahead, and that's what my template will become. And we can choose to have this site title just on the homepage, just for pages other than the homepage, which they refer to as internal pages, everywhere or not visible. You may want to have it not visible so that your logo can do the work of advertising your site. However, you definitely want to keep that first field populated. This is what will appear in Google search results when someone searches for the Rosa Parks Public Library. If we were to delete this field, that line would be blank in Google. So we have some default fonts, not a lot, but we can pick between Times New Roman, Arial. I'm going to change it over to Tahoma, and I'm going to make it bigger. We can also show it in bold. And then all of you have, as a default, the Hemingway theme to start off with. And I'm going to show you other theme options in just a moment. But this is where you come to replace both the site logo and the homepage header and the site-wide header. So let's go ahead and save this, and you're going to see that we now have a new title and it's larger. And if you recognize this little boy, you're going to see him on all of the internal pages. In other words, the non-home pages. Anywhere we go, the little boy. But when you're home, it's just this row of colorful books. And once again, it is under site configurations that you would go to swap out those images. You simply click on replace with new image, choose a file from your computer. It happens in real time. We'll talk later about where to go to get all of the correct dimensions for these images. That is all in the Enfold Systems Knowledge Base Help Desk. So let's talk some more about Ploud terminology so that we're all using the same words to talk about the same things. This is the global navigation bar. That's a very common term across any website. Obviously, these are drop-down menus, but there are some specific terms for Ploud. So for instance, we had talked about the site title, which is literally just this, as well as site logo, homepage header, and site-wide header. And those all refer to images. Anything on the left or right of the screen in discrete content areas are items called portlets, P-O-R-T-L-E-T-S. You can access the portlets for any page at the bottom of the central content page. So at the bottom of the center of the page, you get Manage Portlets. And when you click on that, you have access to everything on the left and right of the page. And we'll cover that more carefully down the road. Let's talk a little bit more about terminology. So if we come over to the events listing, this is the events calendar. And if you come into some of these options, you'll see that you have folder displays as well as item displays. And those are going to become very important as we create new content. This is just fine for the library calendar, but let's say we wanted to go into the director's message. Once again, I would encourage all of you to have a message from your library director on your site with their name and some contact information. This is a full content display of the folder. If we change this to a summary view, it looks like this when you get into the folder, and then you have another click to actually open up the content. We'll explore some of these display options later, but I want you to be aware that it doesn't show up in exactly the way you want it unless you tell it the way you want it, because you have more than one option. So I'm going to select a content item as default view. The director's message is the only page in that folder, and I'm going to save. So let's talk a little bit more about the structure that makes up the Ploud websites. If we go into contents, we will see the items in the folder that we clicked on. So About Us is a folder, and everything beneath it is a folder. Director's message is a folder. Policies and procedures is a folder. Additional services and board of directors. Anything in a drop-down is a folder. What you put in a folder is the content that displays. So the folder's the structure. The page, which you can see by this little dog-eared icon, is the content. Let's take a look at a distributed content page. These are COVID-19 resources. This is an opt-in set of resources for your Ploud site. It's actually controlled at the program homepage, michlibrary.org, where we regularly update it. We try to have only the most accurate and most pressing information here. Your homework after lesson 2 is going to be some of the additional information to include, the type of additional information to include on this page. And let's take a look behind the scenes at what's going on here. So if we go to edit, which allows us to edit the content, we see that the content is being pulled in from a URL. In other words, it's being pulled in from the michlibrary.org homepage. You can do this with any content on any other Ploud site, and we'll practice pulling in some high quality reference material later. There are several of these set up on your site. So you have those resources. You also have the ability to add content before those resources appear, as well as after the resources appear that are being brought in. So if you wanted, for instance, to have several paragraphs or information of local material, you could add that to the pre-content and it would appear on top of the COVID-19 resources. When it comes to the distributed content, I want to show you how it appears regardless of how it was originally set up. It will translate nicely into your theme and colors. Let's go over to the other piece of distributed content. It's under research and kids and teens. So under research, we have selected MEL, Michigan eLibrary e-resources that are delivered directly to your patrons, directly from your website. And we are looking to update this list and maybe move some things around to just put reading on top so we can get MELCAT closer to the top. But one of the things that you should know, once again, with a distributed content page is that you can add any of your own e-resources right here with images and links and as much formatting as you want to do. So that is definitely a nice option. All right, let's go ahead and go into changing the theme and the color scheme. If we once again use our drop-down menu, the second option is Theme Changer. There are 4 themes, and each of them has between 4 and a dozen color schemes. You will never lose content, by switching out among the themes. Feel free to explore them. Let me point out a couple of differences. Hemingway and Slate both have the ability to put an image in the header, if that's important to you. Metropolis and Ploud Default are either plain or cleaner, depending on how you want to look at it. So let's go ahead and activate the Metropolis theme, and immediately we can see the theme applied. If we come in here to color palettes, we have a list of names that don't always tell you what you're going to get. So Seafoam gives you some turquoise and some gray. And then, for instance, Dublin gives you a very lively color scheme. Tangerine is more subtle once again, gives you the black and the gray, and then the accent color is this orange. And we can easily go back to the Hemingway theme simply by clicking on Activate. This one defaults to the green overlay. So I'm going to go into color palettes, and instead of rivers and trees, I'm going to pick Bell. And that changes me over to brown. And I'm going to leave this one at brown. Once again, you can change them at any time. Explore them to your heart's content. You are never going to lose content. Okay, so we have a moment now to take a look at how to actually edit content, because I know that you've been waiting for the last 20 minutes going, when are we going to do something? So we're going to start out with an easy exercise in the footer. And if you're in a good situation where you can both watch me and take action on your site, go for it. And if you can't, just go ahead and watch what I'm doing. So we have a 3-column footer. For column 1, I'm going to click on Edit. And once again, I am making up the Rosa Parks Public Library. All I did was type. Bold was inserted. And then here's something that's really good to know. You know how when you're working in Microsoft Word and you click carriage return or enter, it drops you 2 carriage returns to the beginning of a new paragraph? It works the exact same way in the tiny MCE editor that Ploud uses. So I want to only go down 1 line. So I'm going to click Shift Enter, and that will take me down 1 line. I'm going to use an actual address. Shift Enter. And then I want to turn this into a genuine email address. So when I highlighted it, you can see that these 2 things lit up. I'm going to remove the link, and then I'm going to insert or edit the link again. It's your@library.com, and this is an email. So there's a number of different types of links. There's an internal link. In other words, I would look for another place in Ploud by searching through the navigation structure. I can upload a place for a link that doesn't really apply to this particular execution. There's external to say, hey, I want to go out on the World Wide Web. Email, which is what we're going to come back to, and anchor. In other words, I want to anchor to a particular place on a page. So email address, where do we want this to go? I'm going to say librarian@rosaparkspubliclibrary.org. And you can actually specify the subject so that when the email comes to you from this link, it will be pre-populated with website contact. You can also leave it blank, and then the person fills in their own subject line. This is an option that you'll have whenever you create a link. Do you want it to open in your current window and take over your site, or open in a new window and risk that people won't be able to find their way back among multiple tabs? I will leave you to that discussion in your home libraries. And once again, it's a matter of preference. I would encourage you to be consistent about what you do. So for instance, perhaps links that take you outside your site or open up a new application, such as email, would open in their own window. But any link that took you inside your site would open in the same window. And then you're going to need a title. So this is going to be simply email library director. And the reason you always want to insert the title, this is metadata for the search engines, specifically for Google, and they need to know what your link is doing. And the better this information is, the better you will appear in your search results. And actually, you know what? Let's pause right now instead of saying over and over, we'll do it later. So we have this column. I'm going to save it. And there you go, Rosa Parks Public Library. If you look at how other libraries appear in Google search results, I'm going to look up Buchanan Library. Oh, I went right to the library. 1 second. You can see that this has changed for them. Okay, so this information right here, Buchanan District Library, is open to the public. All library staff wear masks whenever in a public area. That material is either going to be in the summary or the first items on the page. Let's look at that because this is going to matter for every piece of content you add to your site. And I know we haven't added a page yet, but you're going to see this pretty quickly. We're going to click on Home, Buchanan District Library. So they have in their site title, Home, Buchanan District Library. If I Control D to bookmark this, we've got Home, Buchanan District Library. You can remove that so that it just reads the name of your library. Take a guess at where you would do that. That would be in your site configurations. Google is literally pulling your site title from right here. So update that to be exactly what you want your patrons to see. Alrighty, so let's look at how to create an internal link. We've just created an email link. I clicked on the logo. The site logo will always take you to your homepage, regardless of which theme you're in. So I'm going to scroll down to the bottom here. Did anyone have a chance to work parallel and change the name and address of their library on their site? Because I can go refresh it and we can take a look.
I did. This is Nikki.
Okay, great. Perfect. Main branch, 401 Iron Mountain Street, Iron Mountain, Michigan, phone number, and the ability to open up an email link, website contact, and it goes to the correct address. Perfect. One thing to note, as I'm sure you're already thinking, hey, what if this is a public access computer and we don't have a default email browser hooked up to that workstation? That is why you want to both have an email address for the people who are writing you from home, but you also want the more anonymous and sometimes more functional contact us form, where patrons from any place do not have to leave a trail and they can give you their comments. So this is particularly important when they don't have a native email client on the destination that they're working on. All righty, let's look at internal links. So we're going to go back to the center column. So one thing that is popular to do, definitely not required. The only thing that's required on your Ploud site is this logo for IMLS and this statement. This project was made possible in part by the Institute of Museum and Library Services. They're paying 55% of the costs for all of the libraries in the state, and that's the only thing they ask in return. So one of the popular things to do is to repeat some of your most important navigation items down here under Edit, or down here in the second column in your footer. I'm going to click on Edit, and I'm just given this broad space. So I'm going to say maybe one of the most important things to us is the ability to get to the director's message. Maybe we have a brand new director and things they are changing. So I have director's message. I'm going to highlight that. And then I'm going to come over here to insert/edit link, just like I did for an email link. You're going to become very familiar with insert edit link. It defaults to internal, which is just what we want. I'm going to click on the home icon, which takes me to my root folder contents. Root folder contents, the basic structure of my site. And if I remember correctly, my director's message is in the About Us folder. So I'm going to open the folder. Here is the director's message. I'm going to open the director's message folder. And here is the actual page. I'm going to select it. I'm going to open it in my current window and title it Director's Message. I know it takes an extra couple of seconds to fill in that title field, but the nicer you play with Google, the nicer they play back. And it's not all that common for patrons to really know the web address of their library. They're going to Google to find you just like you're going to Google to find the hours for the cinema or the grocery store or anything else. So we click on Insert, and now we have a link here. I'm going to save it. Scroll down and click on Director's Message. Oh, and I'm really sorry, Dickinson. I meant to do this on my play site. Okay. I did it on your site. Let's make that.
I was doing it as well. I was wrong, so that may have been me.
Sorry about that.
That's okay.
Alrighty, let me actually go over to my own site. It is brown. I can remember that. And let's take a look at how to make images linkable. So by default, we've put in Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And I will show you in a moment. Actually, I'm going to stop saying I'm going to show you in a moment, because then if I don't remember, or you need it at the point of need. So we're going to go back to michlibrary.org, which is the program homepage, and we're going to talk about graphics, and we'll talk about graphics as we go along. So there's a place called Icon Finder, which is where you can find free and low cost images and image sets, including sets of social media icons. That's where I pulled these three. So if you need Google Hangouts, whatever else you use, you can come to Icon Finder and you will be able to locate those that look just like that. You can also, let's do it. You can go to Facebook and then decide that you want free icons only, which is the default for this particular icon. And you can find all of these different types. You can do it for Instagram. You can do it for Twitter. And make yourself up a nice little set that works well for you. Okay, let's go back to our site. So the next thing we need to do is make these linkable. So I'm going to link out to the Library of Michigan's Facebook page. So let me bring that up. I'm going to go ahead and copy this URL, facebook.com/Library of Michigan. I'm going to come back, click on Edit once again in that third column, Then I'm going to click on the Facebook icon. It shows me that this highlights the insert/edit image icon. This is where I would go to change or replace that particular style with something else from Icon Finder. But in this case, what I want to do is link the image. So I'm going to click on insert/edit link. What kind of a link do I want? Is this internal, upload, external, email, or anchor? I can wait all day.
External.
Yay, it's an external link. So we're going to paste the URL. And in this case, I would open it in a new window because they're going off my site. So I don't want them to take over the window that is my library website. And this is Facebook link. And insert and save. And now if I scroll down, it doesn't look any different, but when I hover, it clearly shows that I'm going elsewhere. And it opens it in a new window. Okay, let's take a look at the location and hours portlet. This is definitely something that you'll want to get set up right away for your library. And let's talk just for a second about the situation we're in with really fluid hours right now. Google is going to pull these hours to display for you in that side, go back to Buchanan. To display here. I don't know if these are actually their hours. I'm guessing not. There are warnings all over Google that these images may not be correct. Please contact, the event organizers and the people who are doing this. This business has not yet been claimed, so they're not manipulating these or changing these themselves in real time. So you're kind of left to wonder, how real is this? And we all need to be getting back to some sense of being able to find hours on the internet. So I would encourage you, when you come in, and if you don't know what your hours are going to be, or if you don't have open hours right now, do something like this. So I'm going to click into View Map, and that's going to open this page for me. Here's my Google map that allows anyone to get directions right from their phone as they're driving to see you. All Ploud pages open with a default to view. This is what it looks like. You click on Edit. And once again, change the title, Rosa Parks Public Library. And we can mark this as the main branch. This is a correct address, 702 West Kalamazoo Street in Lansing. I am going to change the phone numbers. And fax numbers to a different format. I don't believe that the 3 numbers, dot, 3 numbers, dot, 4 numbers format actually opens up a phone call on a mobile device, but I know that this format does. So I'm going to change that. We have the email address, and this is the selection for hours. You want to leave a return here, and then I would say, for instance, for this library, we currently have limited in-person hours. And because I just hit enter, I went down to start a new paragraph. And those are Monday and Wednesday from 2 to 4, appointment required. And curbside pickup available Monday through Friday. We'll just make it really simple. I know that hours are more complicated. 10 to 3. And now, because it's in this hours field, this is what Google is going to pick up. So it's going to more accurately reflect what's actually happening at your library. If you want to replace the image of your library, you just come down here and click on Replace with New Image, choose the file, and save. And I actually have an image for this, and let me just get it here. Oops. Well, I thought I had it ready to go. And in any case, we'll leave it at keep existing image and save, and nothing will be changed, but that's where you would go to change this image that appears here and here. And this is where the new hours are listed. And you can get into that simply by clicking on View Map, brings it up, and click on Edit, and you can make any changes.
Can I ask a quick question?
Absolutely.
So where you had the location and hours just now, would it be possible instead of at the bottom where you have your find us on Facebook, can you put your link to Facebook up there instead so it's closer, people can see it closer to the top?
Absolutely.
Yay, thank you.
Yep. You can also create what we call a static text portlet. So that's something that we're doing in the, not this hour, but on Friday, where you create your own box up here. This is just temporary. Let's go back to the home page, where you create essentially a field, and you can put it anywhere, a portlet here, 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 and you could add Facebook, Instagram,
Oh, nice.
Google
Thank you.
Hangouts, whatever you want. Yep, it's quite flexible.
Wonderful.
Yep. Basically, the template, the template is meant to show you options, to give you a usable, workable site early while you make the changes that make it your own. We wanted to give you an idea and space for the stuff that you probably should include on your website, such as a director's message, such as graphical links over to your Facebook page. But none of this, once again, other than the IMLS logo, none of it's required. Fly free. Okay, so we've got a couple more topics yet today. I want to talk about copyright and sources for graphics. So I think you probably all, or hopefully many of you, are familiar with Claire Membiella, who's the library law specialist at the Library of Michigan. And a few months ago during COVID, I said, hey, Claire, could you possibly come talk to the Ploud group about copyright? And she said, sure. And I'm thinking, great, she's so professional and she really knows the legal ins and outs of this. And she started her presentation with 16th century France. I kid you not. So I'm not going to start a copyright conversation at 16th century France. I'm going to start it 2 years ago, when I began speaking about the importance of copyright and not just nabbing images off of Google Images and throwing them up on your site, which we all know you're not supposed to do, but it's so tempting. And I was giving that spiel at a Ploud workshop, and I was saying, we're liable for this. Libraries are being sued for this. It matters. And I'll show you some places to get great free images. Use those resources. And so I gave my wholehearted spiel, and we sat down for lunch, and a woman looked up at me and she said, I'm just not going to change where I get my images. You gave us some great places, but I like to just search all of Google. And, I'm a little library who's really going to care. And another library staff member at the table said, we just got sued by someone who was able to prove that actually it was a community member who had used inappropriate clip art for a program they were doing for the library, and the library had uploaded the poster, but it had their logos all over it. It was clearly a library sponsored event, and they got hit with a lawsuit. And these people are not nice. They are very nasty. So let's not hang out with nasty people. So let's go back over to michlibrary.org and graphics. So there are several sections worth of graphics here. If you flat out need a logo, in other words, something to replace this, because this is just filler, you don't want to leave this. You can get a perfectly decent temporary logo for between $1 and $30 at Icon Finder and Graphic River. These are some low-cost, pay-as-you-go credits from professional photography studios. These are getting harder and harder to come by, to buy just a packet of credits or 1 or 2 images at a time. But over here is the truly, truly good stuff. If you want modern photos, which is what a lot of libraries and a lot of websites are simply made up of nowadays, is modern photos, our modern photos. Unsplash, which is great for everything, Pixabay, and Pexels. And Pexels is particularly good for images of people and their faces. And we're gonna look into those in just 3 seconds. And then also we have some services that charge a small fee or sometimes require attribution. So these are a little trickier to go through and maybe not as convenient as Unsplash, Pixabay, and Pexels. And then these materials down here under primarily art images from world famous museums are in a UCLA LibGuide website, and they list institution after institution that are making their image collections freely available online. So if you need just a famous painting, this is where you want to go and find one that's allowing that use. So let's talk about some of the common images that libraries need. So we're going to go over to Unsplash, and I'm going to type in children. We get great images of children right off the bat. Playing outside, happiness. This is one that the Library of Michigan Foundation used. Children of various ethnic backgrounds. Super happy children, children with early literacy, nice high quality graphics. And you are not required to attribute these. It's nice to, but you can just use anything you find here for your banner image, for your logo, to advertise a program. It is open to you. Okay. Let's talk for a moment about accessibility. So accessibility is an area that more and more people are naturally becoming concerned about. And that means having a site that is accessible to people with a variety of disabilities. That may mean things like captioning any videos that you put on your site for people who are deaf or hard of hearing. It will mean having a site that is structured properly so that people who are blind and use a screen reader to access the web will be able to properly understand it. The good thing is that walking into Ploud, you have an accessible website. They have gone to great lengths to make their sites WCAG 2.0, AAA, AA accessible, which is the primary legal standard. What you do with it from here on out is what can make or break you. And I'm actually going to give you some homework today on how to make accessible links and how to write accessible alt tags. And those are 2 like pieces of low-hanging fruit that make a real difference to screen reader users. You can truly improve their experience on your site by learning a couple of quick skills. I'm going to send you these links, but they're both available in Niche Academy. And I'm not sure how many folks are familiar with this, but if we go down to, if you open up the Staff Skills Academy, this is probably what you're used to looking at, and come to accessibility, I'm going to be sending you the links for linking practices, accessibility 3, and the art and science of creating alt text, accessibility 2. You are also welcome to take the first lesson in identifying your library's strengths and weaknesses. I'll include that link, but it's not required. But these 2 things will truly make your website more accessible, make your patrons happier, and at this point, I will tell a little scary story. So you may be aware that the Library of Michigan operates an accessible website. And part of the reason for that is that in 2014, we were sued and we entered into a consent decree with the Department of Justice, the US Department of Justice. And many schools and libraries have followed. And the individual who is responsible for most of the complaints has filed more than 2,400 of them to many libraries. She lives in Michigan, and to many, many schools and libraries in Michigan, some in the greater United States, but she's focusing here. So absolutely do not assume that you won't be sued no matter how big or little you are. I have spoken with this person, and yeah, the size of the library or the school or the community is not impactful to her. So you want to make sure that you have these basic skills. Once again, your template has what it needs. The 2 biggest things that you can do to help are the linking practices and the alt text. Okay. And then I did want to talk about some genuinely fun stuff before I just took some questions. And that is the difference between a hero box and a carousel. So carousels have been really popular for a long time, particularly with people designing websites, but they actually are not very sticky. They don't keep people at your site. They don't keep people engaged in the material, and they're not accessible. This is like the one thing that's like, oh, we'll give our clients carousels, but they're not as good as they need to be. And so if you want to create a carousel, I will show you in lesson 2 about where to go to get all of the instructions to make that happen. I can send you both written instructions and videos. However, what we're going to focus on is this hero image box. And this is much easier both to insert and to replace. So if we come here under edit, compose, we get this little edit button here in this field. If I click on edit, I can, at the drop of a hat, replace the marquee that says this is just an intermission, we'll be with you soon, with any image I like. Then I can change the title, the text underneath it, and that more button can go to any place I want it to go. So the hero images are very flexible. They allow you to change them out at any given moment. And I would encourage you to give them a shot, especially if you were really determined to go with a carousel, or if you had thought, hey, carousel is probably what we're going to need. Take a look at the hero image, let it settle in, and then I also want to take you over to the Superior District Library and show you what they're doing with hero images for their individual branches. By the way, this is another Google display of a Ploud site, and it's because they have strong metadata at these various folder views. Everything here is going to be a folder view. And they have welcome to Superior District Library, welcome back, library opening plans. So we come here. They have a list of branches here, but what they're building out currently, one at a time, are these individual pages for the branches. And these pages can have as much content as they want. They can build all kinds of pages and folders and subfolders here. But this way, every branch has its own hero image, the ability to get to an article or a page about it. Beneath it, they've chosen to put their hours and contact information. You could choose to put different kinds of information. And then up in the upper right-hand corner, for each of the individual branches, they have those specific map, location, and hours. So that's one of the flexible ways that you can use hero images to display good information about branches. It is 11:55, and I'm going to leave the last 5 minutes for questions. Is there an easy way to add more branches so that multiple hours can be listed? Absolutely. You can add as many branches as you want. This is what we call a drop-down menu. These are all individual folders, and you can just keep adding folders. At the next hour, we will talk about drop-down menus, such as the one you have here. So maybe you want to have About Us. You also want to have Library Cat, or anything else you want. You can add or delete as many of these items as you care to, whether they're branches or pages with information. Thanks for asking. Anybody else?
I have a question. This is Nikki. At the beginning, you were talking about like site administrators and how you do that. What are the differences between what people can do in like each grouping, if that makes sense?
It does. So here's the thing. Site administrators can do everything, and I believe it's site owners that can do everything except change the header image. And then all of these are just wrapped up into site administrator. So I know that they didn't click on every box. It doesn't matter because site administrator allows you to do these other things. We're going to talk about getting support next time. But if you are interested in the meantime, you can come here to the Knowledge Base Help Desk for Get Help. And you can either put in a ticket, or you can simply come to search articles, and we could search for user roles, understanding user roles, and they will give you a table of everything that every role can do.
Okay, that's helpful.
Sure. But you're going to be pretty complicated before you do any of this stuff, but it is absolutely available to you. Any other questions? Okay, I'm going to send you out. Becky, let's go ahead and stop the recording.